Welcome back, Burnout Teachers. Today's lesson will be about how to respond to anti-Palestinian school administration. As a Palestinian and Egyptian-American, I experienced a lot of discrimination throughout my schooling in the DC public schools, and I think that this is an ongoing trend and it's continuing to today. My siblings also experienced it, and many Palestinians and other Arabs that I have talked to have also experienced it, and people from different backgrounds. And we really need to challenge this in American education and really allow the classroom and education to be conducive and accepting of all people. This video will be very clear, actionable items that you as a teacher or parent can implement so that your child can begin to feel more safe and more comfortable to be able to learn and to be a part of an environment where they are accepted and their identity is accepted. Number one is to suggest children's books or other literature that the librarian can put in the library and the administration can put in the library to expose kids to the Arab world and to Palestine more specifically. And this is something that's really, really important. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was an Encyclopedia Brown book, and there was a section in it that was really racist towards Arabs. There was a section where he kicked a young boy who had like a cloth over his head or something, and he didn't see him, and then he kicked him, and then he said, "Oh, I'm sorry I kicked you, I thought you were an Arab." And so with the help of my grandfather and my family, I wrote a letter to the principal to bring awareness to this and to ask for the book to be removed. And so books are so powerful, and so if we have good books in our library, or even books that aren't that great but we're having like an analysis of it in our classroom to be able to talk about the things that are problematic, it can be really powerful and can really help students who are from other parts of the world feel accepted in the classroom and feel like their peers are able to learn about where they come from. Putting pressure on the administration to put these books in the library or suggesting them, or even you as the parent or the teacher bringing those books into the classroom and reading them, having a parent come in who's from that country and reading the book to kind of start and facilitate a conversation can be very powerful. Even if the administration continues to not be accepting or willing to do that, you can kind of take it into your own hands and work with the teacher, or as a parent come in and do projects with the kids. The second thing that I just want to stress is that parent involvement is so essential. I feel that a lot of what made me feel more safe and comfortable when I was in spaces that were anti-Palestinian and anti-Arab, I felt as though having my mom and my dad be very insistent with the administration and putting pressure on them, and the administration knowing that when my parents come into the school, that means that they are going to be demanding something of that school. That really helped me to feel safe, and it also emboldened me and allowed me to have a sense of pride in myself, because I realized that like I'm an Arab and I need to be proud of this, and my parents are coming in and they are prideful and able to speak on my behalf to protect my own rights as a Palestinian and an Egyptian-American. So that also made me want to do it as well. So I just think having the parents being really involved is so crucial. So to the parents who are listening, I think your role is so essential in making your kid feel safe, because a lot of the time when there's anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab sentiment, it can make your child feel not good about themselves, or make them feel like they just want to fit in, or change the way they're acting, or deny their Arab identity, try to hide things, maybe the food that they're bringing to school, changing it, maybe changing how they're talking or what they say if they may have an accent. And we don't really want to create a space like that. We want to create a space of tolerance, of acceptance, where kids can learn about these differences and be proud of where they come from. And I think that that really starts in the family and with the parents. And so make sure that as the parent, you are going to the school and are not just putting the pressure on your child to speak up, but really you are involved and you are putting that pressure on the administration as well, meeting with them, and also visiting the classroom if the administration decides not to be compliant with what you're asking of them. Do not take no as an answer. I think this is something so important. For me, when I was in high school, there were these international night celebrations, and I remember for many years, and my siblings experienced this as well, we wanted to have a Palestine table and have food from Palestine, and also do a performance of Palestinian traditional folkloric dance, debka. And on many occasions we were denied to be even able to do that, because there was an Israel table at the international night, and the woman who was in charge, the teacher in charge, said that we couldn't have a Palestine table. And so my mom actually put pressure on me to go and sit with a sign that said Palestine and have an empty table, because she told us at the last minute that we didn't have time to bring things, and say this empty table is a symbol of the settler colonialism that is occurring in Palestine, that there is no food, there is a lack of food, a lack of resources, and the fact that there's nothing here is a representation of that. And also for the Debka dance, I remember one of the teachers, she put me at the end of the program. And so her excuse was, oh, there wasn't enough time for you to perform, so sorry, you can't perform. And it was just a coincidence that it was a Palestinian dance, and this woman is known to have anti-Palestinian sentiment. And so what I ended up doing is I went downstairs to where the reception was, and I put on music and I did my performance there. This is really a political statement. It's really a form of resistance, a way of developing your own pride and where you come from. And when people are saying that you are unable to represent that because the school has a certain agenda with certain parents who may be from Israel or who are promoting Israel, that doesn't mean that Palestine should not be represented. And so really be insistent with that, and the rules that they have had in place are obviously discriminatory, and it is your duty as a student there, a parent, a teacher, to challenge that. So don't take no as an answer, be insistent. Even if they say no, find other ways to be able to do it. And like I did, just go downstairs and start performing. If they don't allow you to perform, just find a space and do it. Don't wait for them to tell you, yeah, it's okay. Another really important thing to do is to suggest field trips. We're really lucky here in the DC area to have many different spaces that are dedicated to Arab and Palestinian culture specifically. So some that you can suggest for your classroom, for your kids' classroom, or to your administration if you're a teacher, is to suggest them going on field trips so they can learn more about Palestine or the Arab world more generally. So there is the Jerusalem Fund or Palestine Center, the Museum of the Palestinian People, which have various exhibits of different artists and also history about Palestine. I know a lot of administration have very strict kind of parameters as to when they take field trips, what field trips they take, what grade levels are going on what field trips. So if that doesn't seem to be an option for you to suggest a field trip, then feel free to bring someone in from those spaces to come and talk to the class, or you as a parent talk about your country in the classroom and kind of really work with the teacher. And I think that what's really important is don't make it about trying to stress a political statement. Like, obviously we would love people to be sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and to accepting Arabs more generally as human and not as terrorists or as people who are gonna somehow destroy America. But I think what's really, really essential here is to just stress the acceptance of difference, and that we are all different here, and we need to accept that, and we need to be tolerant to one another, and everyone should be represented in our classroom. And that is the starting point. Focus on the whole idea, core of kindness and understanding that we try to instill in our children. And I believe that most school administrations would be open to listening to what you have to say if you lead with that idea. My last suggestion is to definitely use Burnout Teachers as a resource, this channel. And I have multiple videos about different ways that you can teach about Palestine through music, through art, through literature. This is meant to be a community to support teachers and specifically to propel forward a curriculum on Palestine and the Arab world more generally. So I have many resources on curriculum and lesson planning that you can implement in your classroom on Palestine and the Arab world. I facilitate workshops in schools about Palestine and the Arab world more generally, so kids can be more tolerant and understanding towards this part of the world. I do everything from music, art, literature, various different activities, movement, sports, and so there's many ways that we can cater this curriculum to the needs of your school. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely get in contact with me. I would be happy to come in and also speak not only as someone who has developed a curriculum on Palestine and the Arab world and and resources to support teachers, but also just as an Arab American who has also experienced this as a young child in DC public schools. As Palestinians, we are way too familiar with how our identity and history is being erased, and so it is very important that we are very insistent that Palestine is represented in the classroom and in our schools. So it's our responsibility as students, as teachers, and as parents to really put pressure on the administration, even if they're insistent on propelling forward pro-Israel rhetoric. We really have to counter that by showing Palestinians are represented in the school, having literature, having field trips, having representatives from different institutions coming into the school to really challenge that, and us to really be the change makers to reverse this bias towards Israel in American education.